Assalamu alaikum, ladies. Alhamdulillah, I finally did it. I actually wrote a book. It's dedicated to all the single Muslim mothers out there, hence the name How to Be a Single Muslim Mum. Inshallah, it's available as an ebook, paperback, and it will be available as an audio. Alhamdulillah. Barakallahu feekum, sisters, for the support. Check out the link in the description to get yours. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode of the Niqabi Diaries, Season 4. Alhamdulillah, we've got with us another return guest, Sister Halema from Season 3. Alhamdulillah. So, inshallah, today we're going to talk a little bit about Hijrah because the sister has recently made Hijrah. Sister, could you please introduce yourself for the listeners and tell us a little bit about yourself so that they can get to know you a little bit, and then we'll talk about the Hijrah, inshallah.
Inshallah. Okay, Jazakallah khair for inviting me. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So my name is Halema, and I have basically born and raised in the UK with my family, and I'm a mama of five beautiful kids, alhamdulillah. And we based Jazakallah khair, and I'm a web designer and web copywriter for sisters who sell their products online. So I have an online business, and I decided to make Hijrah, alhamdulillah, this summer. So we'll talk about a bit about that. But yeah, I'm born and raised in the UK my whole life, so it was a big deal, this decision, alhamdulillah. And yeah, and that's it really.
Okay, Allahumma barik. So if I'm, just correct me if I'm wrong here, you've made Hijrah to Somaliland, not Somalia. There's a difference, right?
Yeah, there is a slight difference. Yeah, it's just basically the northern region and the southern region. And I'm from the north, the Somaliland region. So yeah, we made Hijrah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I think, like, I don't know much about it. I think I've seen a few videos online talking about things like that, but I wasn't sure exactly if I was correct in assuming that they're two separate countries. Because often, well, I mean, I'm born and raised in the UK as well, and I knew a lot of Muslims from the Somali community, and I wasn't sure what the difference was between Somalia and Somaliland. So you're living in Somaliland now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not internationally recognized. It's really self-proclaimed independence.
Right.
It's not actually internationally recognized. So it's technically, to the world, it is still Somalia. But we have Somaliland have self-declared themselves independent, in hope to become independent one day in the future. So yeah, it's been like that now for a number of years, actually, to be honest.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So why did you choose Somaliland?
Well, that's my country of origin, so it made sense. Like, for me, I thought there was other options like Egypt, for example, or the Emirates, for example. Now, I just know that wherever I was going to go, it was just going to be a big change. So I thought, if I'm going to make a big change, why not make that big change? And it's going to take a lot of adapting. Why not make that from my country of origin? That where I'm going to have family there. My kids' side of the family, my side of the family are going to be here. And let's just make that adaptation in one go. Because I knew that if I was to go to Egypt or anywhere else, it would not be long term. It would not be forever. I know that there's a lot of people that have made Hijrah here as well, also from going from the West to like the Emirates or Egypt, and then they end up coming here anyway. So I thought, let me just make that change in one go, to try and be at the least amount, amount of unsettledness, if you like, because Hijrah is unsettling for the kids, obviously, leaving everything they know. So let's just do it in one go and get over all the emotions and all the everything that they're going to go through in one go, in one place. I know some of them probably would have preferred like Egypt or Emirates or something like that, because it's more of a developed country than here. But I just said, no, let's just make it one go, one Hijrah and one time, inshallah. So yeah, that's why.
Inshallah. And I think as well for kids, because I've had a similar experience. I moved to Ghana and I moved with my kids as well. And I think with kids as well, like it's a good to I think I like the decision that you've made personally, because especially being from Africa, if you know you've got roots in a place, it makes sense to go to that place because you know that it's a long-term something you're setting down, like kind of a good base for your children? Because the reality is they are still young, so they have that option that they can leave themselves anyways if they wish to. And you've set something up for them so that if they do choose to come back to their country of origin, it's an option for them later on.
Exactly, and they'll know it. It's not going to be something that's foreign to them. They would have got used to it. But for
Exactly.
me, my kids are a range of ages. I've got young and older, and my eldest didn't come with us. She's in the UK with my husband still. So I'm
Hmm.
here with four of my kids because she's in university. So
Yes.
I couldn't take her out of university, and there's no university here for her to go to. So that is for us is the only difficulty about moving here. When it comes to university, if any of them need to go university, they will need to move elsewhere for university.
Hmm.
But the other four, alhamdulillah, are still here. They're able to study here and do their GCSEs, or there's some of them in primary school and A levels here. But that is, and a thing for me to consider as well, because I don't want them even to go back to the UK for university. So I'm looking
Hmm.
into other countries for the time that they do want to go to university, and thinking about where can they go to university other than the UK.
Yes, okay, okay, so so definitely that's something which is important, and a big concern for a lot of parents who are making hijrah as well, is the education of their children. Because I've known some sisters, for example, who've made hijrah, or they've not made hijrah even specifically. Sometimes they've moved to Muslim countries because of the work of their husbands, for example, having a contract 3-4 years, and then in the end having to move back to the UK because of the children and their studies, and the direction that they trying to get their kids to go in or whatever, and those options having their availability. So I was going to ask you as well about the education themselves. What are the schools like in Somaliland? Because that's always a concern for people having children, is the level of education. Is it up to the standard of the UK, for example, or other Western countries, if we're coming from Western countries?
Yeah, there is. You do find schools here, which is fantastic, that are up to scratch. I mean, everybody does their IGCSEs, so they're doing GCSEs, same as the kids in the UK are doing GCSEs, and many of them are passing their GCSEs, and including A levels as well. So you can get up to that level of education. Obviously, it's more expensive than the sort of government funded education system, and it's a lot more expensive, but if you can afford it, that is the best option for you, because my kids right now are doing the English curriculum. But what is why it's so fantastic is that they're also doing Arabic, they're also doing Islamic studies, and then I still have time for their madrasa in the afternoon. So their schooling is in the morning, and it's very early. They start at, well, not very early. They start at 7 in the morning, and they finish by dhuhr.
Hmm.
And then
Alhamdulillah.
they come home from school, so it's the bus that takes them there and back, so I don't even have to do those school runs. And in the afternoon they have madrasa, alhamdulillah. So they are in the
Alhamdulillah.
school day. The day is so fantastic in the sense that they get both sets of education, and they're not overly tired because they had that break in the middle. They've come home for dinner, relaxed a little bit,
That's
and then I
fantastic.
drop them
MashaAllah.
to madrasa. Yeah, so they do madrasa 5 days a week, as well as their normal secular education. But in their secular education, they're still doing, we're missing out all the nonsense of the LGB. We're missing out all the
Hmm.
nonsense of corrupting our kids. And
Yeah,
we have Islamic studies, the language, actually Somali language they get taught, because a lot of the kids are from the Western world
yeah,
that are
yeah.
there. So they teach the Somali language. They're
Hmm.
doing Arabic and Islamic studies, and they're doing history. So the level education for me is far better than the West.
Yes,
It's far
absolutely.
better.
Sounds amazing.
Um, yeah, it's far better than the West. Plus, they're doing, like I said, a lot of the teachers that have opened up schools here are educated in the West. There were teachers in the
Hmm.
West, and they've all been educated there. So they've opened up school because there's a need for it. People are making hijrah, so they know that these kids, they
Alhamdulillah.
want a school that is up to standard. Their education is up to standard. So it's developing. Some are good, some are good, some are not so good. It's all in that sort of development stage. But alhamdulillah, I've got my kids
Hmm.
into a good school, and I mean, my oldest son is actually doing his A levels because he did finish his GCSEs in London, and so he's doing his A
MashaAllah.
levels here. And they're very good in that they do really push you. But one thing I will say that is a downside in the education is they do go for the academic stuff. So all your maths and your English and your,
Mhm.
sciences and all of that sort of stuff. But they're not really, they don't do that sort of vocational side of education. And there's some kids who are not academic like that. And
Yeah.
they don't enjoy those type of studies.
Mm.
So, where you would have in the UK, you'd have DT, you'd have all these other sort of options that are available for them, especially
Yes.
after going into college. So, or A
Mhm.
level, sixth form, they don't have that here. And that's a bit disappointing because one of my
Okay.
sons is a lot more vocational, a lot more hands-on. So he's
Yes.
doing his GCSEs right now. He's only in year 10, but I'm going to have to think about, after this, I know definitely he's not going to want to do his A levels, and that's not what we planned.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking of what is his kind of education. So the academic
Yeah.
subjects, fantastic, you've got them here. But what about those other vocational subjects that are better for some kids? And that's where the
Yes.
downfall is. So that is something,
I
inshallah,
think
look into.
definitely. I think that's one of the issues with African countries in general. Because I was even saying that to my husband, like here in Ghana, I mean, me had sent our son back because he's at that stage like where your son is going to end up. Basically, he finished his GCSE. Well, he didn't do his GCSEs because he was here, and they don't actually have GCSEs here, but he was doing like kind of the equivalent. But I knew that even without GCSEs, he can still go to college in the UK and do GCSEs in college or do vocational studies or whatever. If obviously if he wanted to do A levels, he could do GCSEs at college age and still go and do A levels afterwards if that's what he wanted. But he's very hands on, so he's gone into doing like electronics, like electric.
Yeah,
To become an electrician, inshallah, because that's like he's more that way inclined. He's not the, as you said, the
exactly.
so-called academic type, although he's, mashallah, very intelligent. But, obviously
Yeah,
for a lot of people, they see intelligence as like something that you just, you're good at taking exams and, having these certificates from like, doing those kind of, what people see is like the, oh yeah, the actual real, that's what they consider to be real studies. But, the
yeah,
vocational studies, electricians, plumbers, and these kind of hands-on subjects, they are very much needed, especially in Africa, to be honest, because a lot of
absolutely.
the, if they could do with some good electricians in Ghana, I can tell you that. I mean, that's
Yeah,
something that they're really lacking over here, subhanallah. So,
yeah,
these things are important, but they don't take them as seriously, and the country suffers as a result, and it's unfortunate, really. But what I find impressive that you mentioned is even the times of the schools and stuff like that makes a lot of sense because it makes sense for the country as well. Being in an African country, starting school earlier makes sense because obviously African countries are very hot. So if you start school earlier, then you
yeah,
kind of got like the cooler time of the day, and then you
yeah,
stop in Dhuhr time, which I wish they would do that here in Ghana because my son, when he was going to school, they start at 7. They have to
yeah,
be there for 6:30 in the morning actually, but they start at 7 and they would finish at 3 or 3:30. And I used to say, well, why are they starting so early and still
yeah,
finishing the same time that you finish in the UK? When the reality is like you're hitting Doha time, which is like the heat of the day. They could just finish school by then and let the
yeah,
children go home. But what happens here is that it's like they try to like follow like a Western kind of style, but without being completely Western, and it's like it doesn't
yeah.
really fit
It
the
doesn't fit.
practicality
Yeah,
of like living in Ghana,
yeah,
but at the same time, I think one of the issues they have here is the school is used as a daycare. They have boarding
mm,
school, like even for children as young as 7, like in some places, and children like places where they don't. The parents like begging, like like can you do boarding for like my child at age 7? So it's like they're trying to like. I don't know, shove their kids in school as early as possible because some parents they haven't had the chance of having an education, so they believe that the longer the child stays in school, the more
yeah.
chance that they're going to be successful in life. And it's like, well, that isn't exactly how it
That's
works. And
actually exactly.
unfortunately, there's like certain, you know, kind of, it's like, what do you call it? There's certain times people can, old children get taken advantage of in school as well. That's an issue there, like safety and stuff like that. But unfortunately, a lot of the parents, they're not seem to be like aware of these kind of things like we would be in the UK, coming from, Western background or, people don't really think about stuff like that. They really trust the teachers with everything fully here. So
Yeah,
yeah, these are like some things like I just wanted to mention. I don't know if it's. I'm assuming it's not the same in Somaliland, but I'm just saying like in Ghana, that's the issues that we kind of have around schooling, and I'm sure that a lot of people coming from Western countries have similar or certain types of concerns about coming to
of
African
course.
countries where there's education, because there's other thing like we have discipline here in schools. Like in the UK, you can't hit the kids like if they do something wrong, but in here you can hit them. The teachers can
Yeah,
hit the kids, for disciplining them.
yeah, it's really they obviously, yeah, it's the same here, and it's crazy because they mostly do that in madrasas where they teach Quran, which has just got to be the
Mm,
worst thing ever because that's when they end up hating things.
yes,
They'll hate the Quran if you beat them because they
exactly.
haven't learned their ayahs. But again, because there's so many people coming in from the West here, they're starting to stop that. They're actually starting to stop that a
Alhamdulillah.
lot more in this particular city anyway. I'm not sure about other cities and more villages and stuff like that, but definitely this city, they were known. They are been told like some parents will come in and say, "Don't touch my child. Touch my child. There's going to be a big
Mm,
problem." And they're starting
mm,
to really understand now because their kids will be taken out and they're losing out as well, so they don't want to do that.
of
And
course.
initially when I first came here, I actually took my the kids to a school that was actually doing the same time as your kids are doing, 7 to 3:30. Now that's
Hmm.
unheard of here, but because the guy is somebody who, again, he was from the West, and it was very much based on Islamic studies as well as doing your IGCSE. So it was everything in one. So there was no need for a madrasa because they did 2 hours of Quran every day. So I thought that was okay.
Right.
And I took them for the first
Hmm.
2 months, but the kids really, really suffered, especially because it was so hot. They really just disliked
Yes.
it. They disliked it so much, and it was so strict, that particular school, which was really
Hmm.
weird how he was behaving, but considering that he was from the West, and how he was acting, and it was so strict, like do 1,000 lines if you haven't learned your Quran, and it's like, are you being serious? Oh, like it's crazy. Um,
Subhanallah.
so we ended up taking him out, and I took him to another school where like I told you, now we have the timetable that we have, and the sister there, she's really, really amazing, and in the sense that, and she's very much on the teachers, like she'll watch them and she'll say if she sees that they're not even speaking to the kids correctly, let alone there's no such thing as discipline, like hitting the kids in that
Hmm.
school, but if she sees them even not speaking to them properly, or being really rude to them, she's like, no, this is not how you speak to children. Like, you don't speak to them like
Hmm.
that. That's not how you're going to get results. And she does 45-minute lessons. So she'll do 45 minutes a break, 45 minutes, because she says, because of her studies, she goes, look, your brain doesn't work after that long. So if
Yes,
my brain as
exactly.
an adult is switching off after 45 minutes, then what about the kids? So the kids
Exactly.
absolutely loved it, and the kids love her. When I see her walking into the classroom, the kids were like, "Oh, it's the head teacher," and they were clapping for her. Whereas the other school, the head teacher, they couldn't stand him. So it obviously shows that the kids like it, and they're learning now at a better pace. So it's fantastic. I really like this school that they go to now.
Alhamdulillah, that's really good. I think that when it comes to the discipline, I don't like my son didn't go to an Islamic school here. Unfortunately, I would have loved to put him in the madrasa, but the area that we're in, I don't think they have like a proper madrasa. It would have been a little bit of a way out for us, and we didn't have our own transport. Um, roads are terrible here as well because we like where we're living because obviously Ghana is not like 100% Muslim country. It's kind of like I would say it's almost 50-50. So we do have a lot of masajid here and there are a lot of Islamic schools, but we are not like the city that we're living in. We're not right in the Islamic areas. So there's a lot of Muslims
Okay.
around,
Yeah.
but then the actual where they have the main madrasas and stuff like that, they're not right in this area. So was having like a private one of his teachers actually that was from the school he was going to was doing like Quran with him after school finished, like for like half an hour to an hour each day. So alhamdulillah, because
Yeah.
they have a lot of Muslim teachers, like it's like all through the schools. And alhamdulillah, one of the good things about the schools that I really liked, as soon as we joined,
Yeah.
one of the Muslim teachers immediately said, they'll like, teach him like with Quran and stuff each day. So he, alhamdulillah, was doing that. And from what I know, like the Quran teachers, I can't speak for all of them, obviously, because he didn't actually attend a madrasa, but I don't think that they beat the kids for like Quran and stuff, which I hope they wouldn't anyways. But
Yeah.
in general, like, they do, as I said, they do have discipline in schools here, but it's like that's in every school. That's the mainstream kind of thing, which I didn't see they was going overboard with it.
Yeah.
I think personally that they're quite reasonable. But my
Yeah.
son did say that, you know, there were some children actually that, you know, started to kind of like get challenging with the teachers themselves. So there might be some issues, like, I don't know, like some children kind of resisting these kind of things. And, you know, like, you know, you get some bad behavior in the UK, and like kids
Of
like
course.
having this kind of challenging behavior with teachers. Obviously they don't have any kind of real repercussions. They have like, you know, detention maybe or something like that. But
Yeah.
here, yeah, it's like, yeah, you just get disciplined, and it's usually if you haven't done your homework. So it's not like for like, I wouldn't say it's not for nothing, do you know what I mean? But I remember a couple of
Yeah.
times my son did say that he couldn't be bothered to do his homework. He just preferred to get beaten because he just didn't like the subjects. I think I can't
Oh
remember which subject
wow.
it was, but he just said
Yeah.
like, so obviously like it wasn't like the beating isn't severe beating, do you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
you know, you get a couple of taps with a stick or something, do you know what I mean, on
Yeah.
your back or your bum or whatever. So he wasn't bothered. He said he couldn't be bothered to do the homework, so he just said he just rather get beat.
Oh
Which
gosh.
I thought was really
Oh,
funny, but I just thought
yeah,
it was
I mean, I
really
think it
funny. But
varies as well. Like I remember
yes,
because
definitely.
we came here for about 10 months in 2016 to 2017, and we just took the kids madrasa. We never took them to no secular education or anything like that for that
Hmm.
year. I just homeschooled them, and the madrasa was a bit harsh. I even went to that madrasa for a little bit just so I could keep my eye on my kids. I made sure they never touched my oldest daughter who was with me.
Hmm.
And they knew not to touch any of the children. They knew it, they were told, but they would just hit my eldest son for some reason. And that particular teacher just wouldn't listen even
SubhanAllah.
to anybody, even the head teachers. And they actually hit quite hard. They use a tube
SubhanAllah.
and they'd
Oh
actually put it
wow.
between your fingers and then smack your fingers with it. And then he ended up wanting
Wow.
to leave the madrasa. He said, I'm not going anymore. So he left. And I goes, that's because of them that he left. And then we had a teacher
Wow.
teach him at home. But it was weird because they never touched any of the other children because they never
Mm.
touched any other, especially my daughter. But I found it really bad because I remember there was my husband's relative that was there as well, but she was like 21 years old. And imagine a grown man
Oh,
hitting a grown woman. Like she's a big
of
girl,
course.
21, and he would smack her. She goes, he would take me into a room and beat me with a stick. And I was like,
SubhanAllah.
that is not acceptable. So that was
It's
all those
absolutely
years ago.
inappropriate.
Is absolutely inappropriate and unacceptable. And then, but like now, obviously they're really learning now. Come fast forward how many years? 6 years, 7 years. They've learned so much not to touch the kids, especially from the West. Anyway, she wasn't particularly. This one wasn't particularly from. This one wasn't from the West, but I think they're starting to not hit the kids so much anymore because it's just
Mm.
not seen as something that's especially with the Quran, it's not acceptable. You want the
Yeah,
kids to love the Quran, not
I
hate
think
them.
specifically when it comes to like Quran is specifically like it just
Yeah,
shouldn't be done at all. Like because I
yeah,
feel like,
and
you know, if you give a green light to teachers, you know, to hit kids to learn Quran or even just Islamic studies in general, it's like you're making it a nightmare for them. Do you know what I mean? It's you're putting a
yeah,
negative experience with it because the thing is we know that children, like, you know, there's different children have different ways of learning. So if your
yeah,
child just happens to be in a school where the learning style does not suit them, then they're always going to be that person that is going through that negative experience because they're being disciplined, you know, for like not being like on top of, like, you know, or that the level that the teachers expect or whatever, you know, or
yeah,
fully engaged or whatever it is, what other reason. So it's really not appropriate to do for Islamic teaching, because I just think it's wrong. Like if you really want children to learn about Islam and to, you know, love the religion and feel happy that they're going to the madrasa, it should be a positive and happy experience. I mean, for other
exactly.
subjects, I'm not that fussed, I'll be honest with you, but that's just my personal take on it. And at the same
Yeah,
time, still everything should be within reason. It shouldn't be like some excessive force something, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
you know, as I said, like my son, he didn't mind getting, like, you know, a few hits from the teacher because it wasn't something severe. He never had any marks on him or anything like that, you know. So it was just like,
yeah,
obviously they're not doing it something like, you know, it's more like to make them feel a bit embarrassed because they haven't done their work, so that, you know, make sure
yeah,
that the kids,
carrying them, because the reality is the schools here, you have to pay for them. They're not like all free. Like you get some government schools which are free, but the majority
Yeah,
of the schools, because there are so many kids, they're paid for. You have to, parents are paying for their kids to go to school. So the teachers already know that, parents are going to be pushing their children to learn because they're paying for that. You're not paying for
exactly.
nothing. Do you know what I mean? So there's
Yeah,
no reason for them to like go in like full ham, like, trying to like go crazy on the kids, like, oh, with physical discipline, because it's literally not necessary. So, yeah,
exactly.
subhanAllah.
Yeah, and the madrasa I
Yeah,
take my kids
subhanAllah.
to now is amazing because again, it was another guy. It's another guy from the West that has actually opened it. So obviously,
Hmm.
there's none of that there, and the kids love him. And he does again. He does Islamic studies, fiqh, and Quran, but he does it the way they do it here. So when everybody,
Alhamdulillah.
when it comes to revision, everybody recites an ayah in the circle,
Yeah.
and they go around like that's and then they do their hift, which is just it's
Hmm.
they do the way they do things here, which is very good here, the way they do it without minus the beating, the way they teach and the way they do their Quran is excellent, but they obviously it's
Yes.
minus the beating, minus the
Of course,
harsh
of
and any
course.
sort of harshness. They really like him, and they just say and if he hasn't done their homework, he will just say, okay, we're going to talk to the parents, we're going to figure out a way,
Exactly.
to help the child, make sure we can get the best from that child.
Hmm.
That's the attitude that they have. So um it's more these madrasas and these schools that we take our kids to are more expensive than the others. All schools
Hmm.
there's no free schools here, but then you can get schools that are like $20 a month or $10 a month for a child.
Yeah. Hmm.
But obviously ours are far more expensive because we're paying for that higher standard of education. So I think that's
Yes.
the only
Yes.
thing, is that if you're going to come here, you have to prepare yourself financially. But the education is there,
Absolutely.
except for university.
Mm-hmm. Alhamdulillah. Well, that's good. I mean, I like the idea of even, obviously you're looking into options for your children to do university in other countries. So I think that's nice, because I think it's beneficial for children to have the experience of living in different countries anyways. I think it does a lot
Yeah,
for them, like personal growth. So I
yeah,
think it's definitely beneficial. And living in Somaliland now, like you're thinking outside of the box already, but you're going to think even more further afield, because you know that there's other options available except from other than the UK. So you don't have to
yeah,
like kind of restrict yourself. And I
yeah,
think that's one of the downsides of living in the UK. People, they just kind of like, it's just like a one-stop shop, isn't it? Like people just want to do everything from there, thinking
yeah,
that everything there is going to be better, but it's not necessarily like that. I
yeah.
know some Sudanese sisters who actually their kids have gone to Sudan to study, and I know Sudan's not stable right now, anyways. But before like all the stuff that was going on in Sudan, her daughter actually went to study to become a doctor there, because she did say that the universities there have like it's acceptable, like it's the same kind of like how they have like system in the UK basically. So if she studies there, she can still practice as a doctor in the UK afterwards.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what people in the West really need. They want to make Hijrah, but they're so fearful, and they think
Yeah.
that there's everything is only in the West, and that's obviously
Mm,
because maybe their lack of traveling. But I would have thought that as well, because I've had a lack of traveling as well around the world. But doing research, and like I've seen sisters that have studied in Egypt and are working as doctors and nurses in the UK, and so they
yes.
complete their education abroad. The West is not the best education in the world. It's not. UK is not the best
Exactly.
education. Doesn't have the best education in the world. There are other countries that have excellent education as well. And now UK is not free either. The education hasn't been free for years now. So you're spending still, that 9,000 or 10,000 a year. You can spend that same amount of money in Muslim countries and actually get a good standard of education as well. That is accepted as well. That's accepted internationally.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's just we like to give ourselves excuses, but also it's the comfort and the fear, of moving abroad. It's quite big, obviously, because you just fear, what if it doesn't work out? But I think the time of living in the West, especially the UK in the West, is really, really for our children. It's literally gone because of everything that
Hmm.
they're corrupting our children
Oh,
with, and
definitely.
it gets to the
Definitely.
point. It's like, is that little bit of education worth them accepting LGB, for example. Is
It's
it
really,
worth
it's
it?
really
Like,
not.
it's
It's
absolutely
really
not.
not.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not.
And
You
we
just
know
have to
coming
decide,
from the
is there
UK as
Iman the
well
most?
that exactly,
Yep.
like we know as coming from the UK ourselves that like even like there's so many different levels. Yes, the education is available there, but you could still have a child sent to the best school and still they're going to come out maybe not, they might not be a doctor or an engineer or anything like that. Still might just have a regular job working in an office or something. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like
Yeah.
why go to that extent to insist on because that's just how it is now, isn't it? Like even
Yeah.
coming from like African or Asian countries where our parents would have wanted us to be doctors and engineers and accountants. The children growing up in the UK now, they're not aspiring to do those things, or most families can't push their kids to do those kind of professions that, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, we need to send our kids to go to university to learn this kind of, or this school and that school. So it's like, is it even worth it then if they're not going to come out with these kind of qualifications?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
literally like, subhanallah, like, most of us are not doing that. So why spend all that effort there? People
Yeah.
talk about going to good schools, but at what cost? Like, subhanallah, even when I was in the UK, one of the challenges that was facing the Muslims in the community I was living in is the hijab.
Yeah.
Even going to some Catholic schools or Christian schools, the girl children were not allowed to wear hijab. And I thought it was ridiculous because some of the Catholic schools had nuns coming and teaching the kids, and they've got their,
Yeah.
get up on, but they wouldn't let the Muslim girls wear hijab. It was that
Exactly.
one of
Yeah.
the rules in the school, and they would not let up on it. SubhanAllah. So it was really bad. And I thought, like, how can you, as a Muslim, how can you say that this is a good school for your daughter to go to? Because they're
Yeah.
not letting
And
them wear hijab. So there
yeah.
you're giving your permission to your daughter to not wear hijab for the purpose of the dunya. So when she gets older and she decides she wants to get a job and she doesn't feel comfortable wearing hijab for that job, if she wants to be, I don't know, doctor, lawyer, whatever, and she can say, well, I don't think hijab is appropriate for this workplace or work setting, or somebody could tell her that, and she will say, okay, well, I didn't wear it when I was going to school because it wasn't allowed. So therefore, when I want to go to a job now, I don't want to wear hijab at the job because it's not appropriate. Do you know what I mean? It's the same thing, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, and that is the fault of that lies solely of the parents, because we are prioritizing their dunya over their deen, over their Islam. And that is something that we will be questioned by Allah. We will be questioned because they're still our
Exactly.
responsibility. And it's just like, how much more am I going to keep compromising their Islam just for the dunya, just for them to have a job that is, that they deem, but they can get those jobs elsewhere. This is the thing, they can read, and they just, so many Muslims just
Exactly.
don't believe it. They actually just don't believe that there's any life outside of the West. And it's very
Hmm.
small-minded, unfortunately. And yes, you're going to sacrifice some things. Not everything is going to be perfect to how you want, but isn't that what Hijrah is all about? Sacrifice. Are we saying that we're not going to sacrifice even a little bit of our dunya for something greater? Then that, we just need to focus more, inshallah, on strengthening our own iman. And then inshallah that will trickle down to our kids, because it really, all of this stems from us. And if I remember when my daughter was little, I sent my kids to schools that were actually academically Ofsted were not very good. But I liked the fact that they were mixed, different people from different backgrounds, and the girls were wearing hijab freely. So their standard of education was lower, but I didn't really care, because I said they're in primary school, I can help them and I can make sure they can pass their SATs. Then I moved area, so then I sent her to a different one that was closer to me, and their standard of education was excellent. But what happened was, it was predominantly, I would say 80% white. She wasn't comfortable wearing hijab. My oldest daughter was getting bullied. And then I said, right, it wasn't even a year. I said, she's gone, and I'll travel back, and we're going to go back to the old school, because I'm not having it. I couldn't care less about their standard of education. I couldn't care less about anything. What I care about is my daughter being happy in school and accepted and being comfortable in her religion. And if that means she goes to a lower school, so be it. I can help her with her maths and English. It's only primary school, and a lot of Muslim parents in the West do this so much. They choose the education over the actual environment for the child. And it's really sad, because some of the kids might get bullied, or they might get they might just not want to identify as Muslim because nobody else is doing it in those schools, and that's a really a failure on them, I'm sorry to say, because education doesn't override again Islam. And you know, if you feel like you can't practice Islam living in the West, then it's best for you to go to a Muslim country. And that's my personal opinion. If you can't, if you can and you're strong enough to handle it in the West, then continue if you want to. But if you don't and you're sacrificing your kids' iman, then it's time for you to consider making hijrah more than anything else.
Exactly, I agree 100%, sister. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to ask about you mentioned about Arabic there as well, and learning Arabic for the kids. So like, how is that going in general? And you know, how are the kids finding, you know, their experience at the moment in Somaliland? Are they picking up Arabic well? Is Arabic a language that is spoken alongside Somali as well? Like, what's the climate like there for, you know, with regards to, you know, how people kind of communicate?
Yeah, no, no, it's Somali purely. People who are educated can learn Arabic and things like that. So other languages, Arabic, English. There's some people that have never been to the West and they speak fluent English here, or fluent Arabic, and they've never been to an Arab country. And that's just obviously because of the education here. So you can find it, but the mode of obviously speaking is purely Somali. And even the people that come from the West, they know that, you know, you speak Somali here, and that's the best thing personally, I think. So yes, you can learn Arabic, but it's not spoken as a main language. No, it's not, because most people are not educated. It's still quite poor here. So only the privileged are able to get educated. You get it? So the main language is definitely Somali. The kids are liking it. They're really loving it, actually, only because I came here with two of my sisters, so and their kids. So it's like home away from home, and we all live next door to each other. So it's like home away from home. And I think if I didn't come with my sisters, it would have been very hard. And I know that's one of the main things that's holding people back from the West, is that if they've got a lot of family, and to leave all the family, the kids are not happy to leave all the family. I mean, I've only come here with two of my sisters. I've got a big family, and they, you know, they still miss their other cousins and their other, you know, all their other cousins. But it is, they're liking it right now. I've got also my brother that lives here as well. So there's four of us out of how many, 12 that live here. And yeah, there's a lot of us. So, but just because of us being here, that is why the kids are enjoying it. And then they go to school together, and they live next door to each other, and they've got friends, they've got still that connection, you know, to family. Whereas when I came, I remember for 10 months in 2016, I stayed for 10 months. Honestly, the kids found it really difficult. They just miss their cousins, you know, they just miss their family, and I don't blame them. So this time round, it's a much better setting, and all the kids are loving it right now. And like I said, they all go to the same school, they go to the same madrasa. Even the schools know us, you know, as all of the kids that come together and they leave together, and they're like, you know, they're actually known as a whole, because there's quite a few of them. So alhamdulillah, they're actually loving it this time round.
So alhamdulillah. Yeah, so mashallah, that's one of the good things, I think, having a big family, isn't it? And you've got them around you, so the kids, they feel comfortable.
Yeah,
I wanted to ask about like safety in general. Like, is it safe for women in Somaliland? Like, you know, obviously you've gone and you're living there, but you know, what's the safety like? What's the kind of community like? And you know, are there other women who are coming from maybe other backgrounds that aren't, you know, originally Somali, that, you know, they're living there as well? Is it safe for them, or is it advisable to maybe know people before coming?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely safe here. I live in Hargeisa, which is the main city in Somaliland, and yes, it's absolutely safe. I see so many people, more than I did when I came last time, that are not Somali background that live here. I'm not sure what they all are, to be honest. I know there's a lot of Syrians that live here, Yemenis that live here. I see a lot of, I think, Pakistanis that live here. A lot of Ethiopians live here. A lot of Kenyans live here, and work in here as well. It's very safe for women here. I have not experienced anything, and I can't say that anybody that I know even the ones that live here originally, can say that there's, women shouldn't go out in the evening, for example, or anything like that. It's fine. It's perfectly fine. If anything, for example, I drive here, and if they see you doing a U-turn, or if they see you doing anything, just assume that you can't really drive very well. So then, I don't know, it's a woman, let her go, let her go. They're very respectful like that. And even though, like, you could drive probably better than them, but anyway, they're very respectful in that way. I mean, I know somebody who recently got into a bit of a car crash, not a car crash, but just hit another car, and she's from the West, and everybody was just so nice to her. If that was in the UK, it wouldn't be like that. And everybody was just, they were like, don't worry, it's okay, it happens. And I think even if it was another man, they wouldn't have been like that with him. They would have just been like going crazy. But because they see it's a woman, they're just so sympathetic. They let you go. Sometimes they'll let you go without even saying, they won't even bother with you. They will not just go, don't worry, it's a minor damage, it's fine, you can leave. Like, nothing. Do you have to pay anything? You don't have to do anything. But they would never do that if it was a man, like I said. They would, gosh, no, they'd eat them alive. So yeah, it is safe here for women, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. And so would you say then that the people are religious there, that they practice Islam, like most people are praying and things like that? What's it like in the masjid, for example, the masajid? Are they full when it comes to the salah time, or is it kind of a little bit empty? What's it like?
You know what, it depends where you go. There is so many masjids here. Like, I'd be shocked if it's full, each masjid, because you'll have a masjid, you'll just go walk down the road, there's another masjid, you walk down a little bit further, there's another masjid. That's how. So I don't think all of the masjids will be full, because just so many of them. But yeah, the main masjids, you do find them quite full. I feel like people are quite sort of divided, those who are more practicing and those who are not. So you will find people that are practicing, but you'll find a lot of people that are not. And I think that now it's become a little bit worse just because of social media, if I'm being honest. People seeing things from the West. Like, when I was here in 2016, 2017, there would never be a woman walking down the street in anything other than a jilbab. Point blank. Not an abaya and hijab, a jilbab. I've come back now, 2023, and most girls are wearing abaya and hijab, and they're not wearing the jilbab that they used to, which is really disappointing. And I know a lot of that is because of sisters are from the West. They don't necessarily wear a jilbab in the West, so they're not going to wear it here. But it has influenced the people here as well. I'm not that saying people don't wear a jilbab, they do as well, but I've never seen, like, for you to walk down the street before just wearing an abaya, you would get cussed. Now it's perfectly normal, and it's people that are wearing jilbab, if anything, are seen as maybe you're very religious or the old granny, which was not the
Alhamdulillah,
case.
they're still wearing a abaya and jilbab. Like other countries, it's like I thought you was going to say maybe they're wearing jeans and scarf, because like literally other Muslim countries,
No. But I think that's only in Hargeisa. Yeah, no, I think that's only in Hargeisa, though. I will say that's only here. You can get away with that here in this particular city. Try and go out to the other cities and wear even abaya and hijab, that they would literally cuss you. You would not be able to. You'd have to put on the jilbab. So yeah, it's just this city, and it's the influence of social media, and it's the influence of people from the West. Like, I'm not criticizing, obviously, abaya and hijab, alhamdulillah, it's good, but I'm just seeing that it's influencing the people that are here that would prior be wearing jilbab, that are no longer wearing the jilbab anymore, which is, I find that disappointing, and that's what I find very disappointing, and that's how things start, really, isn't it? But I just don't think it will ever get to that stage where. Yeah, it's how it
Well,
starts,
I hope it doesn't go to that stage, to be honest. I hope it doesn't drop more, because like if it's like if they're still at least wearing like correct hijab, at least that's something. But subhanallah, like because they're still far behind everybody else when it comes to that I will call it regression, basically. Subhanallah. But yeah, other Muslim countries, it's just like the wearing jeans and scarf is like
so sad.
That's become the norm now. I remember, like, when I first used to go to Morocco, and Morocco's, I mean, to be honest, even when I was going like 20 odd years ago, it wasn't like, oh, everybody's religious. It wasn't like that. But you used to see the girls, even the girls who don't wear hijab, you used to see them wearing their, the Moroccan jilaba. That was the normal
Yeah.
thing that they'd wear in the daytime, at least when they was going around. At nighttime, yeah, they'd still go out in their jeans and whatnot. But now it's like even the girls who wear hijab all the time, they don't wear the jilaba with it. They'll wear
Jilbab,
that
yeah.
they're wearing it.
Yeah.
They're just wearing jeans and like top, or maybe like a skirt and a shirt. That's how you. It's hard to find people wearing the jilaba now. Do you know what I mean? The Moroccan one. You have to go to
Yeah.
certain like towns in order to even buy one. They don't sell them everywhere now. Whereas when I
Mm.
first went there, like, you'd have lots of little tailors shops that were selling them. It's easy to go and get a jilaba, but now it's just like you got to go to another town to get it because
Oh
they're just
wow.
not wearing it now. Yeah, that's how bad it's
Subhanallah,
gotten. It's ridiculous.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
subhanallah. It was something
Subhanallah, it's
like
really
it
sad.
because it's a cultural thing for them. So as I said, even girls who don't wear hijab, everybody would have a jilaba, and a
Yeah.
jilaba is something, because it was so ingrained in the culture. So even if you're not wearing hijab, you'd have one of those, and something that you wear regularly. So you're
Yeah.
still covering, like, at least like most of the time. And it's something that they took pride in, that like they would get new ones like every year. You're going to get a new jilaba or something that they used to take interest in. Now it's just like they don't care about it. They're just getting all like Western clothes, full stop, and that's it. Yeah, subhanallah.
Really sad. No, I don't. I really don't see that happening here, but you just never know. But if more and more people, like I said, from the West keep coming and keep bringing that here. But like I said, you couldn't go out of this city and wear that. You really just could
Hmm.
not get out of this city, because the other cities,
Hmm.
even if people go from the West, they are very headstrong when it comes to that, and
Yes.
they're just
Hmm.
not accepting it, even if they're not particularly religious. They are not accepting
Yes.
anything other than the jilabib. Simple.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Alhamdulillah,
because
alhamdulillah. I
yeah,
think that's good anyways, alhamdulillah, because I mean, the thing is as you said, it's not even the West specifically. There's social medias there now, and I've spoken to
yeah,
sisters who are, living in Saudi Arabia or been teaching there, and it was telling me about how the girls there are, behaving. And even though obviously we know that they still, like, I think they've loosened up on the uniform for the sisters, but they was wearing jilbab and like a abaya and stuff like that, and now, even those girls who are covering up when they go outside, it's what they're doing online. They're not covered when they're online. They're going online and they're posting all sorts of videos and doing all sorts of crazy things. So they can be
yeah.
one way outside, but like online, you get to see like pretty much everything, subhanAllah. So it's just like, it's gone to like really, like a really bad state, to be honest, subhanAllah.
It is, and I think we just underestimated I think a lot of parents underestimated the power of social media and letting their kids have these things,
Mm,
and
definitely.
just really just not monitoring them, or monitoring what they're watching, or even just, what, sometimes you don't even need to monitor what they're watching. You don't need to police them. You can just talk to them about, because
Exactly. And you have to
they're
now.
developing beliefs, and you need to counteract that, and that's where we're
Hmm.
lacking. We don't talk to our kids, and so
Absolutely.
just because
The
they're not learning
communication
from
is key.
yeah, exactly, subhanallah. And I think that's
I
where
mean,
we've
when
gone
we
wrong.
was growing up, when we was growing up, we just like, we're begging our parents just to play outside, and like
Exactly, yeah,
just like even mixing with like like, because I mean, I wasn't raised Muslim, but like my parents were very conscious of who I spend my time with, and like other kids,
yeah,
like, especially the English kids, they're not
yeah,
raised the same way. So
yeah,
my parents will always be conscious about that. They don't want us mixing with certain people because they don't want us to get funny ideas. And it's just like,
yeah,
no, the funny ideas is at school, and the funny ideas is online. And it's like, you go to school, you have to do homework. The teacher's telling you, well, you need to go on the internet, and you've got the school is giving you an excuse to already use the internet at home anyway to do your
yeah,
homework. And then once you're
yeah,
on the internet, like, it's Pandora's box, isn't it? Because it's just like you can be doing anything, and your parents obviously the one you get to good best education. So the parents
yeah,
who think that their children are just busy studying and mashallah doing really good at their grades are showing that they're doing really well, their children are easily living double lives a lot of the time, because they could be doing all sorts of things online which the parents have no idea what it's about, what they're getting up to. And it's just
yeah.
like scary, because you don't have to worry about where your kids are going outside now. It's about what they're doing in their rooms. You might be lucky that your
Exactly, and
parents
it's the
see that your
scary.
kids don't go anywhere, because, oh, they're at home, my kids are at home. Like once upon a time, that was like, yeah, you know, don't say alhamdulillah. Like I know where my child is. My child is in the house, but it's just like, well, your child might be in the house now, but they could be doing anything, literally anything.
Exactly, yeah. And that's the
The
scary
thing
thing.
was like in your hand.
Yeah, and that's a scary thing. So I feel like what we need to do is one thing that we're just trying to get out of sometimes, but you actually have to build a relationship. You have to change your tactics now. You have to build a relationship with your child. You have to talk to them, and you have to put them in environments that will help you. Like some people will say to me, because I sent my oldest two children into Islamic school. Well, in Islamic school, they do everything. You know, the kids are doing this, the kids are doing that. I'm not sending them there for the school to teach my kids. The school is not the parent. I am the parent.
Exactly.
What I'm sending them there for is to them to have an environment where, first of all, they pray 5 times a day, so I don't have to fight my kids with salah. They will develop that in there, because 11 years upwards is a very crucial age. Your kids are developing so much, and they're setting, even before that, to be honest, they are, but definitely secondary years is where big changes happen. So I'm sending them there, so somewhere that they can pray, somewhere the teachers are not corrupting them, and somewhere where they can find, there's, of course, there's going to be naughty girls. My daughter went to a Islamic school, girls' school. She said you don't even know what the girls do there, but that's not the point. There were a few good girls, and she was one of them. And she got to make sure that she prayed 5 times a day, and she did all of these things. So it's not about the school teaching them. The school is not the parent. They're there to teach them maths and English and provide a good environment and things like that. I'm the parent, and I just didn't want them to send them to an environment that's going to contradict me so massively, and I'm fighting with the kids, you know, on basic principles, because they're getting corrupted by the schools themselves. And that's what the role of Islamic countries are. Or when you said you're making hijrah, you're not saying that this is the best place and they can't find corruption here. They can find corruption, absolutely they can. Even here in Somaliland, I've heard that some schools, the kids, again, they're kids that come from the West, bringing everything here. So it's they can find so much corruption here. But the point is, there's many places that you can't find corruption. And as long as I'm not in a battle with the school, because the school is stronger. They go to school most of the day. They spend their time in school 5 days a week. How many hours? I'm going to lose that battle eventually if they keep picking up things from there and they're not able to repel, or they're not able to, withstand the peer pressure and all the things like that. Then I need to make sure you just put your kids in a better environment. And it doesn't matter how great the academics are. What matters is their iman, and you'll find that Allah will bless them. Allah will make them pass those GCSEs and those exams that you're so obsessed with. They will get good educated grades. My kids did get them, even though they didn't always go to the schools with the best education. It's not the point. They still did, because Allah is seeing your efforts, and He's not going to let your efforts go to waste. But prioritize His religion, and He will prioritize you and what your efforts that you're trying to do. And that's why I always say, build a relationship and put them in a better environment. Not the best. There's no such thing as the best. Corruption is everywhere. But just put them in a better environment, inshallah. And then that will help you. That won't contradict you. You're not going to be fighting with too much. And inshallah, you will have kids that are not going to go astray, inshallah.
Inshallah, definitely, subhanallah. So you mentioned that you've seen that there's other, ethnicities making hijrah to Somaliland. So obviously that's, your actual background, your native origin. How easy is it for somebody coming from a different background to be able to make hijrah there? Because obviously in the beginning you did mention that, you wanted to settle in a place that you could, be there permanently. It wouldn't be like, short term something. So what about other ethnicities? What's the visa, rules like and stuff like that, residency and all those kind of things? Is it easy for people coming from other countries or other ethnicities to be able to actually stay for long periods or even permanently in Somaliland?
Sorry, I'm not quite sure about the visa rules and stuff like that, actually, for other ethnicities. I will say there's so many other people from different ethnicities here. I can't say, I'm not quite sure if they I don't think it's actually too difficult to stay here, to be honest. I really don't. As long as you just renew your visa, but I don't know the rules of that, to be honest. I really don't. There's some people that from other ethnicities, from, for example, Ethiopians that have been here and then they actually have children here. So their
Yeah.
children are actually born and raised here. And I'm hearing that some of them do get residency here because they were born here. But it's easy to come here. It's easy to really start a life here with not too much. Um, and in terms of visa rules, I know that you can get a visa. It's easy to get a visa. How long you can stay with your visa, though, I'm not sure. But I'm seeing people that have been here teaching in the schools, for example, Kenyan teachers for years now. And they
Okay.
said they've been here for quite a number of years. So I don't think it's difficult. That's what I'm thinking. I don't think it's difficult at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, so
Inshallah.
and what's the housing like? I mean, how is it? How easy is it to get accommodation and live? Well, did you already have a family home there that you moved to, or do you have to kind of go and look for a place from scratch yourself?
Yeah, for with us, so we actually had family home here, so that was
Hmm.
easy, and that means obviously no rent. But there are places that you can rent here for decent prices, like $300 a month, 350 a month,
Hmm.
um, and so you can get rented accommodation. You have to have something. You can't come here with nothing in plan.
Hmm.
You can't. There's no government that you can go to and say I'm homeless. House me. And there's no councils, no things like that. So
Yeah.
sorry. So yeah, and you do have to have a a plan for your housing, and that's why there's obviously so much poverty as well, because people don't have that. They don't have that wealth. So you
Yeah.
will always see the mixed living, the rich living with the people who are just normal, and with the poor. We're all just mixed in together. So you come outside your
Hmm.
house and you'll see a tin shack, if you like, and it's literally that's what it is, and people live in there.
Yeah.
Or and then you go a bit further down and you'll see beautiful, like it looks like a little castle, home. So
Yeah.
it's everybody's mixed in with everybody. But you do need to have something in place to live here, because you're not going to, you will be homeless. There won't be, there's nothing here.
Yeah.
There's no one going to give you anything here, basically.
Mhm. Alhamdulillah. So, and what would you describe the standard of living bit like
The standard of
in
living
comparison
is
to the UK,
according to
obviously?
your income. The standard of living is
Hmm.
according to your income. You can get everything that you get, literally everything that you get, and live a nice life in the West, as you do in the West, and get literally everything that you can get in the West here. You just have to have the money for it. So it's a lot more expensive. Some people can live here, and I don't know how they do it, to be honest, on a few $100s a month, and they'll have kids. And then some people will need at least 1,000. Some people, 1,000 is just your school bills. You need another, you need 2, 3,000 to live here. So it's really depends on how much you're willing to sacrifice. But you can have a good standard of living here. But there's no handouts here. There's nothing here. So you've got to make sure that you're either working, your husband's working. That's why it's really good to start an online business as well, even if you're just generating a little bit of income. It's really good. And or your husband, if you're married, has a decent enough job. Most of the time sisters are coming here a lot from the West, and they're by themselves with the kids. Why? And that's like, for me, how I am right now. I'm here with all of my kids, except for my oldest is with my husband in London, because there's not a there's no job that's going to pay him enough to support us out here. So he needs to continue working, and most of the sisters are like
Mm.
that, and that's a big sacrifice. And yeah, that's a big sacrifice that you have to make. Hopefully, it's a short-term sacrifice. That's what we plan for it to be, a short-term
Mm.
sacrifice, not a long-term thing. Um, but most of the sisters here are by themselves looking after the kids, and they have help. Like, we had a lot of sisters have maids and things like that, helping them in the house. So still a better standard of living, because when you're in the West, you're doing
Mm.
everything for yourself, whereas when you're
Yeah,
here,
exactly.
you do get a bit, you can afford to pay for that help. But again,
Hmm.
it means a split family, in the sense that the father's not here. And that's because you can't, unless you can get a job that is going to pay you enough. You can't afford it. So it's always the husband still has to be working in the West and providing you with that money.
Yeah, subhanallah. That's
Mm,
it makes sense, but yeah, definitely it's a sacrifice, I suppose. But subhanallah, I think a lot of
yeah,
people go through that. Like, if even if you didn't, even if you wasn't seeking an Islamic lifestyle, people go through these kind of sacrifices just for worldly benefit. So why not? For the
mm,
sake of Allah, anyways.
yeah,
Alhamdulillah.
yeah, exactly. But I did hear. I remember my friend said that in Egypt, for example, families come, including the husband comes, but
Mhm.
they are all for that sacrifice that they do reduce their standard of living, and their standard of living is
Yeah.
not what it would be if they were living in the West. There's a lot more poorer, but they
Hmm.
prefer it because the whole family are together. Do you get
Yes.
it? So
Yes. Of
it's
course.
about how much we're
Yeah.
willing to sacrifice, I suppose.
Of
And it's
course.
not really you as an
Definitely.
adult. I think you as an adult, you can sacrifice much. Um, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's the kids, that will be here moaning and
Mm,
complaining and we don't have this, it's not fair. And then so sometimes you just do it for
mm,
them, so that they
yeah.
they
Yeah.
don't hate it. You want them to like it. So you're in that sort of
Hmm.
situation where who do you please, yourself or the kids, or
Hmm.
so it's a lot of sacrifice, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. But definitely worth it. Inshallah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
it's
what would you
definitely.
what would you say the biggest differences are between Somaliland and the UK?
Biggest difference is the environment. We get to hear the adhan 5 times a day. My kids will, my 10-year-old, for example, he'll just say, "Oh, Mum, I'm going to the masjid to pray." You couldn't do that in the UK.
Mhm. Mm,
I feel like there's a lot less corruption here. They're not getting corrupted with the way they would getting corrupted in the kids. Well, not getting corrupted, but the corruption that lies in the kids' school in the UK.
mm,
And you're a lot more comfortable. It's so much more of a relaxed lifestyle because you start from early on in the day. I don't know what it is. It's just the environment, the air. You see the sun. Even now it's winter, and this is their winter. But gosh, I'm sorry, I love this weather. The mornings are a bit chilly, and the evenings are a bit chilly. But the daytime is lovely. It goes up to as much as 19, and this is the winter. The sun is out, and it really does make you feel like you're in a much better mood. You're in a happier mood here. So there's not that rush, that hustle and bustle that you have of the UK. You don't have that here. There's none of that here. It's much more relaxed. Better you, better mom, and then less snappy mom, and better for the kids as well. They love it as well.
alhamdulillah. Okay, yeah, subhanallah. That's really good and interesting, alhamdulillah. So what would you say a typical day in Somaliland was like, since like well, you mentioned a little bit about it's more like, kind of easy going, less stressful. So what's a typical day for you over there like?
It's typical days starts early, and that's one of the things that's hard for my kids to get used to. You have to be up like at 5 and get out by 6, and get on the school bus about 10 past 6, go to school. So then I've got the morning for myself. I just cook. I've got the morning to do everything that I need to do, and I'm a morning person. I'm such a morning. I get my things done in the morning, and then the kids are back for dhuhr. So that the time between Dhuhr and Asr, they get to come home, relax a little bit, eat, and then prepare that for their madrasa. So they prepare their Quran. I help them with their Quran, make sure that they're ready for madrasa, and I drop them to madrasa at Asr. They pray Asr there and have their lessons. Where again, I can just come home. I can either go shopping, or I can come home again and do things that I need to do, or I can just go out to, like I said, I live next door to my sisters, so I'll just go to their house, or such a much more relaxed environment. And then I pick them up just before Maghrib, and we come home and we just start the evening routine. Have your baths and have your food, and do any little bit of homework, and it's bed. And it's just,
Alhamdulillah.
I just remember doing all of that in London, and it was just so stressful, so
And
stressful.
exhausting.
Yeah,
Definitely.
exhausting.
It must
And
be
I
really
I
exhausting.
don't
I
feel so
remember like
exhausted.
yeah,
Yeah, you just don't feel so exhausted
like,
here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like constantly run down all the time, but alhamdulillah you can do all those things there and more even because obviously you're living the lifestyle, or you're making your way to do those things that you wanted for your children obviously in the UK, and to give them an Islamic schooling and all that kind of thing. You have to make that much extra effort in the UK as well. isn't it?
Yeah, it's thriving. It's a big thing in the UK. Whereas here, I mean, I don't do the morning runs, which is good. Everybody hates the school runs. I don't do the second, but I just do the madrasa runs. And that's in the afternoon when I've already finished what I needed to do really during the day. And yeah, it's just that relaxation that I think your mind relaxes here more than anything else. Your mind just relaxes after the initial, obviously, first few months you're finding your feet, finding the best thing, just trying to find everything and just learn the city. Even though I've been here before and I lived here before, so I knew a lot already, so it's not so hard for me, but my sister's never lived here before. So it's just all of us finding our feet, making sure the kids were, comfortable and things. But after that, it's just so much more relaxing. That's all I can say. I can do everything that I was doing in the West, but I'm relaxed about it. I'm not stressed, and I have that peace of mind that wherever I send my kids, they're not getting corrupted, and that's the best thing.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Yes, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So, apart from your family that you've got there, are you able to? Do you find that you're able to blend in with the community again now? Because obviously you've been raised in the UK and everything. So, do you feel like there's, is it easy for you to blend back in, with the locals? And what about your kids as well? Because they're going to the schools there as well. Are they mixing with locals as well, like making friends?
Oh, you know what? It's difficult to mix in with locals all the time, and that is it's been echoed by a lot of people that have come from the West. It really
Hmm.
depends what area you live in, if the locals are nice or not. Like in the local
Hmm.
shops, for example, I know the people in the local shops and they're really nice and we have a chat and things like
Hmm.
that. In the local community, not so much. I've only been here for a little bit, other than what is my in-laws anyway. So they're obviously from here, which we all know, and the kids mix in with their kids and their cousins that are, they're not from here. They're not from the West. They're from here, so they are mixed. They
Hmm.
mix in with them, okay. But I can't say to you, I'm really mixed. I'm actually starting to mix a bit more with the communities that have come from the West. I'm starting to see them more
Hmm.
and a lot more now, and because we take our kids to the same sort of schools, if you like, same addresses, same
Yeah.
football. Like my sons go
Hmm.
football on the weekends. So you just happen to see more of the people that are from the West. Do you get it? And even some of them mix in with the locals and have a good experience. Some of them mix in with the locals and have a very bad experience. So it really just depends on the area that you live in and the way you're allowing your kids to go to. Personally, for me, not yet. We're not so mixed in with the locals yet. I don't know. Yeah, a local shops, like I said, and local area, yes. But outside of that, not really, not so much so far. I don't know if that's going to change though. If I don't
Hmm.
know how much that's going to change. Inshallah, it will, because they do need to mix in with the locals. But there is that language. They need to learn to speak the language a bit more. My kids, unfortunately, don't speak our
Hmm.
language very well. So they learn it in school anyway, so that's good, alhamdulillah. And here, so they're
Hmm.
starting to pick it up. So I think the longer they
Yeah.
stay, the more they pick up on the language, the more they'll be able to mix in with people, inshallah.
Inshallah. Inshallah. Yeah, because I think that's really important. And I don't know, like, if it's the same in, all African countries, but I don't know, like, I feel like some places is maybe easier to like mix with the locals than others. The only other African country I really have any experience in is like in Morocco, and that was more like just holidays. I've not lived there,
Yeah,
for any length of time. So I don't really want to like say that, it's like that. But I mean, when I was in Morocco, at least a few times that I've been, I find that like I was getting to mix with local people a lot more. Um,
yeah,
and I don't know if that's because of that kind of the setup with Morocco in general. And I think maybe some other North African countries might be true for them as well, that they just have a more of an influx of people coming from the West more often. North African countries have that kind of element of tourism like aspect, like a lot
yeah,
of them make a lot of money from tourism and they rely on it. So
yeah,
I think it could be because they have people coming from the West quite often, even their own native people like visit quite regularly. So maybe
yeah,
that they're used to mixing with Westerners a lot more, so it's kind of like broken that barrier a little bit. But
yeah,
I find that being here in Ghana, it is hard mixing in with the locals. Everyone's friendly, in that sense,
yeah,
like you could, people are, pleasant and all that kind of thing, but to really mix with them, like, make friends, I find that it's quite difficult, and I've had other expats, or we call ourselves just diasporans, say the same thing, basically, that they find it quite challenging making friends here.
Yeah, that's it. I think the same as well, because also I feel like no matter what, they're always going to look at you differently, because in their mind, you've come from the West, you've come from the privileged life,
Yeah,
and that's people's attitude here. Like, and they don't know about the sacrifice that we've made. Or they don't know who's privileged and who's not, and who's just working,
exactly.
for every little bit just to give their kids what they want. And I feel like there's a level here of the people that sometimes you won't understand each other, because they just have that ignorant mentality, and they just think that they just assume everybody from the West has the best life, and they just really don't know. And so many of them
Definitely.
still want to go and run and live in the West, and you're like, it's not the
Mhm.
time anymore.
Mhm.
Do you get it? It's not the time for you to live in the West anymore. But they just don't listen to you. They just think that
Yeah,
you're
they
not
don't
being
get it.
genuine when you're actually being genuine. Why would
Yeah,
we have moved from the West over here, if it was the best
yeah.
place? We wouldn't have, would we? We would be
Yeah,
still be there.
subhanallah. And literally, the
So
amount of people that ask me why I've moved, like, why,
yeah,
why did you come here? Go back to go. They tell me literally go back to the UK. They say there's nothing here. Go
yeah,
back to the UK, and it's just like
yeah.
subhanallah.
You
It's
just
just
don't know.
you don't
Yeah,
get it.
and then
Yeah, you
they
don't get
don't
it.
get it. Yeah, and it's sad. It's really sad, because they just put the West on that pedestal, and they just assume,
Yeah.
well, you get money for nothing. Can you get no? Go and live in the West. There's so many people that live in poverty. Do you get it? Why do
Exactly.
you assume that people are not living in poverty? There's so many people live in poverty. So just be
Hmm.
there. There's an element of ingratitude, and that's why sometimes you
Yeah.
can't mix with the local people, or you not that you can't. You just don't have nothing in common with them. You really
Yeah.
don't, because
Exactly.
they're
Yeah.
always never going to look at you as equal.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll just look at you for what they can get from you. Well, you've got money, you've
Yeah.
came from the West,
Yeah.
you need to give us
Definitely.
money. And it's just that entitlement
Hmm.
attitude. And it's like,
Yeah.
when has the shame left you to ask somebody for money? Why won't you get up and work?
Yeah.
Many of you have
Subhanallah.
got the ability to go and work. Like, why would you
Exactly.
ask somebody and lower yourself in asking people? There's a
Hmm.
lot of beggars here, and there's a lot of beggars here, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
people that say these people are professional beggars. They're more than capable of
Yeah.
working. They choose not
Subhanallah.
to work. So that's the
Yeah.
sad thing. That's the one thing I would say that's quite sad, and it makes you a bit reluctant to mix with the locals like that.
Hmm. Definitely, subhanallah. I get a lot of that here too. It's like it's basically the same, like you said. I mean, I don't know. I think when it comes to the begging, you see people who they're usually like you can see like they're like maybe they've got a disability or something like that. And obviously, being in Africa, like there's nothing for people who are disabled. If you don't have your family to take care of you, then
Yeah,
like you are really like struggling basically. I think the main things living in Ghana, in general, like beneficial things, and I think it's true for most African countries, that if you have your own family home, you're pretty much
yeah,
going to be okay, because like food grows everywhere. You
yeah,
don't have to, like, if you're really poor and you can't afford to buy fruit in the market, you can forage and just get foods, and be able
yeah,
to eat, like,
yeah,
day to day. I mean, it's not, so you're not like, it's not that bad. Whereas I think in the UK, if you're poor and you're really struggling, you need to have money to buy food, because like there's not really many
exactly,
places to be going and foraging for food. So
exactly,
like,
yeah,
yeah, and money is a really big deal living in the West, I think. But here, if you don't have money, you can still like survive, like, you know
exactly, yeah,
if you like,
yeah,
I mean, it's not like, it's not impossible, especially
yeah,
if you got your family home. Like, that's the main thing. If you got that set up, then you're okay. And I think if you're somebody who thinks outside of the box a little bit, and I know like it's going to vary with people in African countries, but I see here, what I see here in Ghana is that people might have their own family home, but they've got land that they can grow food on, but they don't want to grow food on the land. They want to go to the market and buy fruit from the market. There's people who have fruit trees here and other things growing around them, and they don't use those things. They want to go to the market and buy food. So it's kind of like a status thing. They see that, I think they're seeing that if you grow food in your own home or your own land, it's like you know you're doing something lowly. Like they want to, they like to show that they have money, that they can go and buy food in the market.
yeah.
And I feel I
It's,
feel like that's really
it's really
wicked.
bad, and it's a
I
level of
feel like that's
arrogance
so
if you
odd.
think about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
subhanallah, it's
level of
really,
arrogance.
really
Yeah.
strange. It's really
Oh,
strange, subhanallah, because I think yeah, people see that, like, if you picking the fruit from trees and stuff here, it's like people almost look at you like, what are you doing? Like, it's like you're doing something odd. I used to
yeah,
get I used to get some lemons from a neighbor, She's got a fruit tree. Yeah. So she got this lemon tree, and and I asked her like if we can have some lemons, and she said yeah, it's okay. And then I said, well, while we're picking, like I was picking some, and I said, well, yeah, like I've picked some for you. She refused to take it. She said she doesn't use it. She's like, I don't use them. So yeah, so I
Yeah,
ended
I
up
mean,
with like
and you know,
double the
things like
amount
that
of
are really
lemons. And I was just
actually,
like,
yeah, it's so sad because things like that are quite annoying. I find them to be really annoying because it's like, well,
yeah.
you put yourself in that position, and don't you, you know, they go and look at somebody when they're at a certain status, but they don't see all the hard work that went in before that. So they just want to
Exactly.
go in for the success, and they don't want to do any of the hard work. And I find that people here have really lost that sense of just working hard. And I think that's because of
Exactly.
so they have family living in the West that are always sending them money. They just get so much
Yeah,
money. So they
definitely.
feel the need less to work less. And it's quite
Hmm.
sad. I mean, it's just quite sad to have that mentality because then other people are going to
Definitely.
come to your country. And that's what we see a lot of people coming from other countries actually working here when the local people should be
Exactly, and
working
making
here,
the most
to
of
be
it,
honest.
and showing
Exactly.
what can be done as well. You know, that's what it
Exactly.
is. It's showing what can be done, because I think a lot of the people who are using the land to grow their own food, and when I mean their own food, I mean as in for them to actually eat it themselves, as you know, people coming from outside. You know, they're coming because literally, subhanallah, like I don't know how, I'm assuming it's the same in Somaliland. Like there's a, I don't know if you know, there's this the sisters on the YouTube channel from Somalia. They're I can't remember the name of the channel, but it's a mother and daughter. I do watch them, and I really like their, like they've got really nice content, but they're growing like a lot of food in their own like
Yeah, I
home
think I've
compound,
seen
and
them.
they
Yeah,
also,
yeah. And the
yeah,
honey and the
really
bees and
really
things
nice.
like that.
Yeah. But it's,
Yeah.
yeah, like so I follow their content. So that's my little bit of knowledge about Somalia. I really don't know that much. But you know, they were saying how you know, like there's so much food that grows there, and it grows so easily. And it's the same here, subhanAllah, wallahi, without
Yeah.
trying, food grows everywhere here. You can just, and the thing is, it's funny here because people are like constantly cutting down the trees, and you know, like they don't have any kind of
SubhanAllah.
regard for preserving these things or nurturing them, but they're still growing. Like there'll be trees growing out of concrete, literally lemon trees, mango trees, papaya
Wow. That's a
trees,
blessing from Allah,
plantains,
wallahi.
bananas. They, wallahi, it's such a blessing. And the people, what's sad is that people are not seeing it. People don't see it because they don't take care of the things. Like literally,
Yeah.
like just from walking around in my little area, I can find chili peppers growing. I can find garden
SubhanAllah.
eggs growing, as I said, the
Mhm.
different fruit trees, like, and come back like with, like, you know, with a bag, like, or a couple of bags of shopping worth, just from things that are growing, not even in people's homes, but just around the area. They just growing,
Yeah.
and people
Yeah.
don't use them. You'll,
SubhanAllah.
like, literally you'll see people aren't using these things. They'll, you know, so you'll see fruit rotting on the ground, or kids will like use oranges to like play football with it or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
like, subhanallah, it's like I think when people are desperate to make money, they'll take fruit or whatever, get food from outside that they can find, and go and sell it in the market. So it's like, you
Yeah.
know, like they do that when they're desperate, but it's not like, oh, you know, like they've kind of what you may call it, done agriculture or something like that. It's something that they're
Yeah.
not really taken seriously, because they do have agriculture. I think we have cocoa and coffee as well as another one, but even the cocoa and the coffee, those things are exported. So you'll find that Ghanaians don't know, they don't really have a coffee culture at all. They don't drink it.
Yeah.
Everything, any hot drink is tea. So
Yeah.
they don't have a culture for these kind of things. And then
Yeah.
you know, then the cocoa as well. They were saying that most Ghanaians have never even tasted chocolate. So they're trying
Oh
now
wow.
to make, yeah, they're trying now to make effort to actually start producing the chocolate themselves, because they've been sending the cocoa outside, you know,
Yeah.
and you know, but the cocoa farmers themselves doesn't even know what chocolate tastes like. So it's just
Oh
like,
wow.
subhanallah, you just think like, why is it like that? Like, why? It's
Yeah.
subhanallah.
Yeah.
So,
SubhanAllah.
yeah.
It's crazy.
There's so
It's
much
I think
potential. There's so much.
there's so much potential. Yeah, there is. There is so much more potential. I feel like a lot of people have a lot of the restaurant industry here is booming because they know there's a lot of people from the
Mm,
West, and they just are opening up restaurants all over the place, buying and selling what we would normally have in the West. But again, it's true, they the food that they get is always imported. Some fruits and vegetables are not imported, but some are still imported, and it's like we could do so much more better. We really can.
Exactly. I just don't understand the concept of importing food that you can be grown in your backyard. I literally
Because
don't
I
get it,
feel like
especially
it
being in
must be that
Africa.
the people are refusing to work. That's what it is. The people are refusing to
Literally,
work for it, and it's sad,
literally, because
because
and it is sad. It really, really is sad because it's just like we got a lot of food being imported, and the joke is as well with some of the food that's imported. Sometimes it works out cheaper than the local food, which that puzzles me as well, and I just don't understand. So it's just like if you want to buy local, they still try to charge you more than what you pay for the imported stuff, and you know, and I just think like,
yeah,
well, why do you do that? So it's not if they're not even encouraging people to buy the local produce because they put the
yeah,
prices up, when it comes to
yeah,
the local thing. So it's really odd, they've
yeah.
got a lot
It's
of
odd.
strange kind of practices here, and I don't know like
Yeah,
who exactly is benefiting from all of that because
yeah.
I mean
Well, the
I don't
produce
have it.
here
I
is
think
there.
yeah.
The produce here is cheaper. Is what you buy that is from
Hmm.
imported, and what people buy from the West, that's what's more expensive. So if you choosing to
Yes,
live
yes.
that kind of lifestyle, like how you were living in London, that's going to be more
Mhm.
expensive. But if
Mhm,
you would
absolutely.
come not, and then you just get the local produce and those huge sacks of flowers and things like, you can
Yeah,
actually live
yeah.
a lot cheaper here.
Yeah,
Definitely,
that's
that's a lot cheaper,
that makes sense.
alhamdulillah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, here I think I understand like on the continent, people trading with different countries on the continent. For me, that makes sense. But when it comes to like literally getting things from UK and like Europe, I just think like it's pointless. Like even that
Yeah,
when it comes to like certain fruits that are not native to here, they can be grown here still. They can still
yeah,
actually be grown here. Like with some little bit of effort, you can grow them here too. So
yeah,
I think because we get like apples here, and I'm sure that majority of them are imported
yeah,
because I think the native apples are usually quite smaller, but
yeah,
and you hardly find them as well, the native ones. And then again, if you do find somebody selling them, they're selling them quite expensive. They're not actually reasonably priced. They're like quite pricey. So it's just
yeah,
like you kind of off as well, subhanallah. But yeah, those
yeah,
are just some of the things. But alhamdulillah, I think with time, inshallah, things will improve, with the
yeah.
because I think when you mix the cultures a bit more and you bring that knowledge from other places, it helps the community to grow a little bit better and you know
Inshallah, yeah,
help
yeah.
things to go forward.
Definitely,
Inshallah.
definitely, inshallah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, is there any kind of final thoughts you would have or advice you give to people like that are thinking of making hijrah and especially to Somaliland?
Yeah, I would say definitely do plan. Don't just come sort of blind, but just accept that you will need to be uncomfortable. Like, be comfortable with being uncomfortable for the short term, but for the long term, there's so many people making hijrah here. You're not going to be lost. You will find your community. You will find a community of other people. The kids will find other kids that they can mix with. And yeah, just do plan. And if you're doing everything for the sake of Allah, Allah will make that path for you. You will be. I mean, everything that we do, obviously, and we set out, Allah does test us. So don't run away from those tests. And there's a lot of people that left here and said, oh no, it's too expensive to live here, but it's because they're not really willing to sacrifice their living a little bit. Do you get it? So, and a lot of them buy a lot of takeaways, and then they can't understand why their food is so
Mm-hmm.
expensive. But it is expensive because you need to do as you were doing in London, still cook and work hard, but you can afford a bit of help, inshallah. Even if it's just a cleaner to come in and do some cleaning, that's a massive help. Um, and you just have to make it in your mind that you're doing it for the right reasons, and for the safeguard of you and your children. So just be willing to sacrifice, plan ahead, inshallah. And if you're planning to make hijrah here, there's a huge community here of people that have made hijrah, massive, bigger than what it was than when I came here in 2016. So you won't be lost, inshallah. You'll find a friendly face somewhere, inshallah.
Inshallah, barakallahu feekum, sister. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, and I hope that inshallah some sisters will, look more into considering Somaliland as a place for Hijrah, because obviously it's an option. I think it's nice to hear about the different options available, and just kind of going in with your eyes open rather than rose-colored glasses, as they say. It's good to know the different kind of sides. So yeah, we need to know the realistic side to making Hijrah, basically, inshallah. So yeah, alhamdulillah.
Jazakallah khair for having me.
Wa iyaki, sister. Take care.
Okay, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.